Hi, you're listening to Cam Dadwar from the Trading Framework. Welcome to the next video in the series. Going to go through the process that I go through for adding composite volume profiles onto your charts. It's quite a straightforward process, so let's just get into this. Firstly, you will want to ensure that you have a daily chart available, some kind of longer time frame chart, somewhere between a 30 to 120 minute chart perspective, and a shorter time frame chart or shorter term chart could be a Renko chart, which I like to use personally, or a time-based chart somewhere between a 2 to 5 minute chart, or it could be a tick or a volume chart. Range bars is also quite popular. So basically some kind of short-term chart that you can see some of the more detailed perspectives intraday, spanning over the current day and maybe a part of the previous session as well. So something that gives you just a very short-term focus. So we want to firstly define composite profiles on a daily or weekly chart, and the process for this is quite simple. You just basically need to add a volume profile which spans back anywhere between 10 to 20 years. So I'll just show you how to do that. So here we have a E-mini S&P daily chart, and you can see I've got a custom profile already on here, which is something that I discussed in the previous video. Now, to add a composite profile, there's a number of ways you can do this. You can use the toolbar, as I showed you in the previous video as well. So you can use the profile drawing tool here. So you can actually draw a profile on like this, and then you can actually manipulate the settings for that profile. Now, what I've already got here is some buttons set up for composite profiles. So I'm just going to click this button here, composite profile. Just draw it anywhere on the chart, really, just covering a few bars. Now, my composite profiles, I keep them really straightforward and simple. Just a white outline, and it's not filled in with any kind of color. So I just see the outline, I can see the peaks and the valleys, and that's what I'm interested in. The valleys are the low volume areas, the peaks are the high volume areas. And the idea is to figure out where the acceptance and the rejection is, and at which prices. The rejection is typically occurring at where the low volume areas are. That's basically where the market doesn't want to trade. And the high volume areas are very good targets, and typically the market is attracted to them. So the areas of high volume are considered as acceptance because the market has proven it wants to trade there. What we generally find is the market moves away from the low volume areas and moves towards the high volume areas. So the support and resistance levels that we should be interested in using the composite profiling tool is the low volume areas, and we typically will use them for support and resistance, looking for moves towards high volume areas, and then we can use the high volume nodes and high volume areas as targets. So I've just put a profile on here, as you can see. Let's just get rid of the value area profile. And I'm just going to go into the settings now and put this on the chart for all the bars. So you actually don't specify how far this profile goes back within the profile indicator. What you do is actually set the chart settings to define how far we go back. So it's a daily chart, and I want this to go back 20 years. So I've selected that there, and you can just choose how many years you want to go back. So I've got the last 20 years there, and I'll just hit apply. You know, if I was to change that to 10 years, you'll notice it won't really change much because we are basically trading into new highs. So but what you notice, if I have only 10 years that we go back, we'll actually notice the volume profile won't it will cover all the bars for the chart, but it won't go that far back. But if I was to change the chart to actually go back 20 years, we'll get some more information. So 10 years is probably okay right now, as we're at all-time new highs for the E-mini S&P. But as you can see here, if I go back 20 years, I can actually go quite a bit further back, and I've got some more volume profile information coming in. Because it's already set to all bars, it takes into consideration automatically the extra extra time there that you've added onto the actual chart settings. So quite straightforward. 10 to 20 years is sufficient enough for daily, weekly charts, and you can see where the acceptance and rejection areas are from that perspective. So if I was a swing position trader, I would be typically looking for low volume areas below value for buying opportunities. We can put a custom profile back in, custom value profile, and we can see that we have value right now. And if I was to put some resistance levels in, you can actually put levels in below, because at the moment we are above value, and I really would want to see the market get below these levels, for example, use them as resistance, then potentially move back to value. Now if we was at support, which we've already held previously, you can see we've been holding the low volume area right there, those values right there, and rotating back up. So we've held that a number of times, so that would be the area of an interest, if we do make the move back down. So that's the daily chart. Now let's look at the process for adding these onto the other charts. So for longer time frame or shorter term frame charts, or shorter time frame charts if you're using time-based charts, basically longer term charts, shorter term charts, we want to pick a major high or low firstly off the daily chart, and then set your longer time frame, shorter time frame chart to start from that date. So you can use the begin to present option in Market Data or Investor RT. If you're using some other piece of software, you should be able to find the ability to start a chart at a specific date. So once we do that, we then want to download the 1 minute bar data. This is assuming that you are again using Market Data and Investor RT with some historical backfill data available. You can then download 1 minute bar data, and you don't need tick data, you just need 1 minute bar data. Tick data, if you was to, for example, try to download a number of years or months worth of tick data, it will basically just cause the software to hang because it would just be a lot of data to download. So what you want to do is refrain from using tick data, just use 1 minute bar data. The software is capable of finding the profile information using the 1 minute bar data, because it just looks at the closes of the 1 minute bars and it has snapshots of the volume in each 1 minute bar. So it's sufficient enough for us to define composite profiles, and that's basically the format you want to use. So just need to make sure that you've got enough 1 minute bar data to ensure that you cover the beginning date for your chart. So what we then do is just add a volume profile on, just as we did for the daily chart for all bars, but it would automatically start at the beginning of wherever that chart was defined to start from. So let's get another chart up here. So we've got a 30-minute chart at the moment for the E-mini S&P. We'll just go to the daily chart and pick a point of interest. So we're making all-time new highs at the moment, so we could really go ahead and just pick a major low. I'm going to take this low right here. You can really pick any low or high. As we seem to be making new highs, I really want to pick a low. So that way, even if we do start coming back into this range down here, I've still got profile information to utilize. The general idea for me is to go back far enough so I don't have to take new start dates continuously and redraw my profiles, etc. So I don't want to do that consistently, so I just want to set it up and just leave it like that, and typically you'll be able to work with that for months and months on end, and you won't really need to make any changes. So what I'm going to do here is the only time we would really need to make a change, even if I took this low, is when we take that low out. If we was to trade past that low and start traveling back to these areas, then I might want to bring in the volume profile information from the previous lows, and then I can pick a new start date. But what I'm going to do here is just pick this particular date here, which happens to be the 14th of April 2014. 14th of April 2014. So I've got the date, and I just want to go into the preferences for this 30-minute chart now and put that in there. This is in US format, so I'm just going to put the date in, April 04, 14th 2014, and I always download full sessions data, which is the full Globex session, not just the regular trading hours. And once that's done, this chart, just hit apply, it's done, it's ready to go. Now what I need to do is add the composite profile on to the chart, destroy it anywhere initially, and then you go into the settings for that profile, and then choose the time per profile setting, change that to all bars, and there we have it. We now have a composite profile going all the way back to April the 14th of 2014. So you can see I've got lots of data below if we was to go back into those areas. Of course, the most interesting areas right now are the ones that are more recent. Now if you cannot bring in that much data for whatever reason, or you don't wish to bring in that much data, the minimum you really want to work with is the last 3 or 4 weeks worth of data. You can easily sort of reference those areas within a few days. So you don't want to have to keep taking these profiles again and again and again. You just want to set your chart up and just leave it like that and focus on doing your analysis around it. So what we've got here is some potential support at the moment, for example. So I can actually start highlighting these low volume areas for potential support. Now that's a really wide area, 2102 to 2098 for the E-mini S&P. That's like a 4-point area of value. So there's some resistance down there and support down there, and resistance here would be just above this range. So that would be, for example, this low volume area right here, and I've also got a low volume node right up here. It's just about low volume. If I thicken this up, you can see it a little bit more clearly. And I'm only interested in support and resistance in specific areas. So you'd notice that there are actually low volume nodes within the value area. Those are really only interesting if you find yourself in a trade. You typically wouldn't be using the LVNs within value unless you are looking for a continuation move. An example would be, for example, we hold down here but the move's already on its way. Then you might look for an LVN to hold intra value for the continuation of the move. The typical scenario is to look for a move from below value to above value, and from above value back to below value. And you can see the market has clearly been doing that from this range back up, back down again. Then we had this value area, back down, back up, back down, back up. And this is what the market typically does once it finds value. And here we have a new value area that we are auctioning around, back to the value high, back to the value low. So initially right now, could have a very clear perspective of what I'm expecting this market to do next with a very high probability. And it's very surprising how consistently you'll see these moves, but you do get used to it, and you start to really gain a lot of belief and confidence, understanding that these areas hold very, very often. Now we would go a step further next. We would take Fibonacci retracement extensions around this range, and then we could get an idea of how far this market can actually go below and above value. But this is the basics of it, to get your low volume areas above and below value, so you actually have areas to work off. Now I would just like to add that we would need to see specific setups below value and above value. We wouldn't just buy every test of the levels below and sell every level above. We wouldn't just short those levels blindly. We would wait for a specific setup, because this is quite a longer time frame chart. So on a shorter term chart, we could add the composite profile on also, and I'll just bring one up, and we could then use that to help fine tune around those areas for doing business. Okay, just got to find the chart. Okay, so here's the E-mini S&P shorter time frame chart. It's a 4-tick Renko chart at the moment. I might as well put that on a 3-tick Renko. It's typically what I use intraday. And we can again just add the composite profile on this. Just go into the settings, set it up for all bars. And there we have it. Now to download the data, to ensure that this is all populated, you want to go to your data download page, and go ahead and download 1 minute bar data, and you want to go back to the beginning of your start date for the chart. So I could choose a fixed date, and it was April the 14th 2014, and then I'll go ahead and hit the download and close button. Now I don't need to do that because I've already got the data, but that's what you would go ahead and do to make sure you actually have the data downloaded to actually work with, because your charts will not populate, the volume profiles will not look correct unless you've downloaded the data. So now that we have this in place, as I was saying, we could look at a longer time frame chart. We've got the valuer down here, and then we could start defining some specific setups or scenarios that we would be interested in around this. For example, this low volume area below value here. So we can put the same levels on the chart. What I do is I actually share my levels across from one chart to the other. So when I have my levels set up on the shorter time frame chart and the longer time frame chart, they're basically are shared, and if I move them on one chart, they move on the other. Now I'm not going to show you how to do that in this video because it's another topic, but it's something that will be covered in the rest of the trading material. So what I can do here is I can start to figure out scenarios to actually get involved in the potential opportunity for the move back to 2112. So I could, for example, start saying, look, if it pulls back to this area and starts to bottom out again, I could be looking for a buying opportunity, maybe start to watch the order flow there, or I could be waiting for it to pull back a little bit further up into this area and then start using one of these levels up here, which are also low volume nodes, and that's what I said, you can actually use these levels within value, and then you can actually start looking for scenarios where you pull back, hold those areas, and then make the move for 2112. So you get some areas to potentially engage in, but you also get a very good idea of what targets you might be using. For example, if I found myself long here at 2105, I would initially target the VPOC because that's a highly accepted price, 2107.5. So that would be a very good target. This high volume node would also be a very good target. And as I typically scale into the trades, so that would be 2109. So I'd typically scale into the trades, then I scale out of them. So I would scale in around this area and find my position and work into my position, and then I would target some incremental profit taking levels. So I would define 07.5, 09s, and then 11s here, trying to get most of the position off by the time you get into 2112, the value high, because that's where the sellers are most likely to be found again, and you would have some resistance up there. And what we would then look to do is maybe target 2113 for an example, because that's also a high volume area, but it's above value. So you would only really keep your runners into the unfair highs when you're long from below value, or runners into the unfair lows if you're short from above value. But trade management will be covered in another video in a lot more detail. So this is just to provide a good foundation of how to actually get started with all of this. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.